The system operates on the basis of corruption. So, because it's so fundamental to the way in which the Putin system operates, it creates its own blind spot.
Well, I've read that Putin's military leaders, when the war started, they predicted an easy victory, that it would take perhaps only a month or two to wind down for them to win. It's been 3 years. How did they make such a huge miscalculation?
There's a process of internal lying that goes all the way up to the top, for one thing. Also, it's a tradition in Russia to underestimate your enemy. Russians have been underestimating their enemies for a long time. They underestimated their enemy in the Russo-Japanese War. They underestimated their enemy, believe it or not, in the Second World War. They underestimated the Finns in the Russo-Finnish War. They underestimated the Chechens in the First Chechen War, at least. So for them to underestimate an enemy and to predict an easy victory is not all that unusual. The plus the fact that the corruption and sclerosis in the Russian military is not something that Russians are anxious to report up the chain of command. The system operates on the basis of corruption. So because it's so fundamental to the way in which the Putin system operates, it creates its own blind spot. It's the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, and it would be a very brave person indeed who would dare to say,
to point out that the tanks are falling apart and the planes aren't running.
That supplies have been stolen,
right?
That our technology is outdated, that soldiers are not prepared.
Well, over the past 3 years, the U.S. supplied approximately $120 billion. That's more than 1/10 trillion dollars of aid to Ukraine, of which $66 billion was dedicated to security and defense. And it's been reported that EU member states collectively contribute another $140 billion. So did Putin's military fail to anticipate that high level of support, without which Ukraine would have fallen quickly?
They may have, yeah. They may well have underestimated, because they had every reason to think, as I thought at the time, that Joe Biden, who was adamant in opposing the delivery of Javelin missiles,
opposing the delivery.
Yes, he was throughout the Obama administration. The Ukrainians asked for Javelin missiles to protect themselves against mass tank assaults. That they didn't have the anti-tank weapons that they needed and that was one of the reasons why the Russians were able to take over the territory that they did in the east of the country before they stabilized the line of contact. It was because they faced mass tank assaults, right, and that they couldn't stop them. And they asked for the U.S. to provide the anti-tank weapons, which is what the Javelin is basically, that would enable them to resist.
Why wouldn't we supply those? Those are clearly defensive weapons. They're not offensive.
I think we have to ask Joe Biden and Barack Obama. But right, the extreme timidity and the unwillingness to take a stand on principle and say, "Listen, we're not going to tolerate any more aggression." We see that right now with Trump as well, by the way, but we can get to that. But I thought that Biden, given his record, would not respond the way he did. But I was wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong. And I'm glad that Biden, whatever his past record, did the right thing by providing Ukraine with the weapons that they needed to save themselves, and they did save themselves.
No, but you just said they wouldn't provide the Javelins.
No, they didn't provide. This is when Biden was vice president. This is not after the. It was, you see, because we're talking about several different periods here. When Trump became president, and to his great credit, in his first term, he authorized the javelins. That's one of the reasons why Kyiv was saved. But when Biden was running against Trump, there was every reason to believe that once, and then he won, as we know, he became the president. The Russians had every reason to believe that, given his past record, his record when he was vice president,
yes,
and the advocates and the attitude of the Obama administration, that they had nothing to fear from the United States or the West, that they could just roll over Ukraine. And at first the aid was rather halting, but in the end it was substantial. Not substantial enough to help Ukraine win, as it could have been. I mean, but we can go into all those tactics at some other point in the conversation, but enough certainly to help Ukraine stave off a massive attack.